All right, it is exactly an hour since the trade deadline passed, so let's quickly talk about the rest of the deals that have happened. I did not record a reaction to the Brandon Ingram trade last night or the Jericho Sims trade, just because I was busy doing other stuff, but I figured I would talk about the rest of the deals. I'll talk about those two I mentioned at the end, but all the deals that have happened, today before the trade deadline. And I wanted to start first with the Cleveland Cavaliers because I think they completed a trade that officially, for me at least, when it comes to like playoff tiers, I think the Cavs are now right there with the Celtics. So the Cavs traded Caris LeVert, George Niang, 3 second-round picks, and 2 pick swaps to the Atlanta Hawks for DeAndre Hunter, who is having, by far, his best season, is somebody that is just a absolute knockdown shooter now. And while I still think he may be a tad bit overrated defensively based on what his reputation is, and I say that as somebody that's a big DeAndre Hunter guy, he is still a good defender, and the Cavs finally have a 6'8 wing player that they can throw at the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Browns of the world, the Franz Wagners and the Paolo Bancheros of the world. DeAndre Hunter actually gives the Cavs a credible wing for what feels like for the first time in like 4 seasons. And Caris LeVert became expendable because of the emergence of Ty Jerome. So I thought this was great business for the Cavs. I'm actually shocked that DeAndre Hunter went for the price that he did. Somehow having a 6th-year leap in his career, but great gift for the Cavs. I think it fills out the rest of their starting 5 when you put in Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, Jarrett Allen. Now you have the perfect 6'8 wing that is taking nearly 7 threes a game and can create a little bit for himself. If there's one thing about DeAndre Hunter, say what you want about him not passing the ball a lot, he does make quick decisions, and that's whether or not he should put this shot up or not. And I think that on this team with the Cavs that shoot a lot of threes too, DeAndre Hunter's going to fit right in. I fucking love this move for the Cavs. This trade right here gives me an opportunity to talk about the Phoenix Suns a little bit, but the Phoenix Suns have finally traded away Jusuf Nurkic, much to the great relief of Suns fans all over the world. And they're sending a 2026 first-round pick to the Charlotte Hornets for Cody Martin, Vasilij Micic, and a 2026 second-round pick. I guess this is a good move for the Suns because, one, Jusuf is off the team now. He's no longer, bringing the mood down. But I imagine that, getting rid of somebody that brings the mood down doesn't really mean much when you're talking about the Phoenix Suns, who Ramona Shelburne just reported that locker room is toxic right now because the Suns front office has been fucking up. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Cody Martin, I guess to a simplistic and very reductive statement, he is like 2 degrees below Caleb Martin, and I mean that in a very positive way. Just a big wing, a big 6'5" that can defend. And yes, it's going to take a little bit of time for him to load up the 3, and he doesn't have as much on-ball creation juice as his brother. But Caleb Martin is someone that does an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. That's about as best as I could describe it, and I guess you need some of those on the Suns, especially guys that are gritty like Cody Martin. And then Vasilij Micic, that's a nice little backup point guard that you can throw out there if Tyus Jones's defense just becomes too untenable. Micic isn't a great defender himself, but I mean, he's 6'6", and he also is a really good passer still. But if you're talking about the goal of getting rid of Jusuf Nurkic, I guess the Suns won this trade or whatever. I don't even know if you can win this type of trade, but I think the biggest losers when it comes to the trade deadline has been the Phoenix Suns. Because, one, that trade with the Utah Jazz they did a few weeks ago where they traded their 2031 first-round pick, unprotected, for 3 first-round picks from various different teams, but the Jazz had control of those picks, and really got those picks so they could, have enough, first-round picks, immediate first-round picks to make a move for a star. And they zeroed in on Jimmy Butler, but they also zeroed in on Jimmy Butler while somehow not expecting that Bradley Beal would use his no-trade clause, a no-trade clause that's been one of the most publicized no-trade clause literally of the last 5 years in the NBA. And Bradley Beal did not want to use this no trade clause. And then as Brian Windhorst explained it last night, I mean, then you just pivot to, well, let's see what we could get for Kevin Durant. And once it became clear that that wasn't going to happen, now you are coming back with the trade deadline having passed, having not traded anybody, making a dumbass trade, giving away a 2031 unprotected first-round pick, and now you're coming back to an angry locker room. I don't know if the use of Nurkic-Cody Martin trade materially improves the Suns in any meaningful way. They're still going to have their roster issues, but, I mean, at least they won't be playing complete negatives out there at center anymore. Nick Richards has provided a lot of Nick Richards has given Suns like a refreshing view on what a competent center looks like, and he's been getting offensive rebounds and stuff. But honestly, I just don't like the direction the Suns are going in. And I'm somebody who has been a Devin Booker day one stockholder and has been very invested to see how the Suns build around him. And Matt Ishbia might not be Robert Sarver, but he is a different type of bad owner. That's my take. I mean, he clearly came in with we're going to make every type of move right now immediately. And all those win now moves and trading DeAndre Ayton and Toumani Camara, which is looking really bad now considering that you traded away, Yusuf Nurkic, who was also, by the way, very bad for the Suns. He might have had a few good weak stretches here and there when he first got to Phoenix, but that dude still can't finish around the rim, and defensively, I mean, let's not even talk about that. But you trade away Toumani Camara and DeAndre Ayton, and that looks really bad in retrospect. Debatable if trading for Bradley Beal was the right move. I mean, at the time, I liked it because I thought offensively it was going to make the Suns really good. But that is clearly hindering you now, considering that you had to pivot to trading Kevin Durant because somehow you didn't expect Bradley Beal to use his no-trade clause. But enough of the Suns. Let's move on to more trades. So it'll be very interesting to see what the summer for the Hawks is going to look like. Rest in peace to my, Hawks will be better than the Miami Heat this year take. I thought I was going to be right for a while there, but turns out the Hawks are kind of doing a soft sell after the Jalen Johnson injury. And it'll be interesting to see what happens to Trae Young over the summer. But the Hawks traded away Bogdan Bogdanovic to the Los Angeles Clippers for Terrence Mann and Bones Highland and by the way, the Clippers are getting 3 second-round picks back in this deal. Nice little get here for the Clippers. I think when healthy, of course, Bogdan Bogdanovic is low-key a really good just on-ball player. Not only can he, play on ball, but he's a really good shooter in any type of situation, off the dribble, off of screens. Bogey's a really good shooter, and he's also a motherfucker when it comes to playing. He competes his ass off, and I think that actually fits the ethos of the Clippers a little bit. And, with them trading away Kevin Porter Jr., a trade that I will get to in a little bit, getting Bogdan Bogdanovic beforehand was a really smart thing to do for the Clippers. I also think he's a guy that could play alongside James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, obviously, because of his shooting. But then when Harden's off the floor, you could just give the ball to Bogey and let him rock. He's also a very good passer, and he could shoot, which is just always going to be a good thing for an on-ball player to have. The Clippers are interesting, man. Now that Kawhi's back and is, showing signs that he's looking like Kawhi, and James Harden has been great all year. Clippers have a really good defense too, so Bogey will be insulated. I like this pickup for the Clippers. Also, it looked like the Grizzlies were, trying to offload some rotation players because they have like 1,000 good rotation players already, and they're going to be drafting for the foreseeable future, I assume, because they are an NBA team, and the Grizzlies are incredible at drafting. So they traded Marcus Smart to the Washington Wizards in what was a very short-lived and very disappointing section of the era for the Grizzlies. I thought I was one of the people that was on board with this trade when it happened, even though there was the question of how can you make a 3-guard lineup work, etc. Honestly, Jalen Wells, Scottie Pippen Jr., and with the way the Grizzlies find guys, Marcus Smart became expendable. He wasn't even, good when he played, because he's just been hurt a lot recently. And I wonder, as Marcus Smart ages, he gave his body up a lot, especially in his 20s during his time with the Celtics, playing through injuries, diving on the floor for loose balls, always being the team's best rugged defender, all this stuff. Being 6'4" and having to guard literally like 1 through 5 at times. And you just wonder if all those bumps and bruises are catching up to Marcus Smart now. I'm actually very bummed out, but Marcus Smart will go to the Wizards. I assume he's not going to be there long. I don't know. It really depends. I think I said it last night in the Chris Middleton trade. It was a bad trade for the Bucks, but the Wizards do have some talent there, and Jordan Poole is having a bounce back year. I know people don't watch the Wizards a lot, and they only know Jordan Poole off of the memes you see on Instagram when he does some stupid shit from last season or takes a bad shot this year, or you see a blooper on ESPN. But Jordan Poole's kind of bounced back, and they have Bilal Coulibaly. Alex Sarr is looking like he's going to be a perennial All-NBA level defender at the very least. At least he has the potential for that. So there's some stuff there in Washington, but they are still a very bad team. And I'm sure Marcus Smart wants to compete for a championship, so I don't think he'll be there long, maybe a buyout candidate. But also the Grizzlies traded away Jake LaRavia to the Sacramento Kings. And Jake LaRavia, ironically, I guess there was some weird type of contract LaRavia agreed to, even though he was a first-round pick for the Memphis Grizzlies, and so they kind of had to offload him this year. But Jake LaRavia made a lot of solid plays this year. He took a leap. Even though his scoring went down this year, his efficiency jumped up, his rebounding jumped up, his assists jumped up, and he became an impactful rotation player as a 6'7" big. I mean, he also shot 44% from 3 this year. So if you're a Kings fan, I like this pickup. As somebody that's a big perimeter player, and the Kings actually need a few of those, and he's immediately going to be a rotation player. But the Grizzlies, man, they're just going to keep cashing in on stuff they made. The Marcus Smart thing was kind of an in the red type of sale, because they did have to send out 2 first-round picks to get Marcus Smart, which was a great move by the Celtics in retrospect. But, yeah, they had to send out a pick to the Wizards for them to take on Marcus Smart's contract. So that was a little bit of a loss. But they are cashing in on trading guys away like Jake LaRavia, and they just have too many rotation guys. So a move had to happen. There's other little small trades like Kevin Porter Jr. going to the Bucks and Davion Mitchell. Very fittingly, by the way, if you know Davion Mitchell's work ethic and all that stuff, going to the Miami Heat. But we do got to get to 2 more trades that happened last night after the Jimmy Butler trade. The Los Angeles Lakers trading for Mark Williams and sending out Cam Reddish, Dalton Knecht, a 2031 unprotected first-round pick, and a 2030 pick swap. And by God, if Mark Williams stays healthy, they have found the perfect offensive center for not only this team, but obviously the post-LeBron era as the Lakers. I still can't wrap my head around this, guys. Luka Doncic is a Laker, but as they transition to the Luka Doncic era, Mark Williams is the perfect type of big to play off of Luka Doncic and LeBron James. Obviously, the injuries are always going to be a concern, but my God, man, if he could just figure it out defensively, because he has been a mess defensively so far. But is some of that because he was also on a bad Hornets team? And also some of it is because he just doesn't have the experience yet. He's only played in 85 games. But the Lakers needed an actual center after trading away Anthony Davis and having only Jackson Hayes there. They have their center now in Mark Williams. And yeah, you sacrifice Dalton Knecht, who is probably going to be one of the best shooters in the sport or on the planet. But he's 24 years old. Good to cash in on him now. And, you just got to hope, he stays healthy and he can figure it out a little bit defensively. And now that he's on a good team with expectations, maybe that learning curve can fast track a little bit. And I don't want to get too crazy with the Lakers because defense is a huge concern of mine. But who the fuck wants to see this team in the West, man? I know you could say, well, LeBron and Anthony Davis were both star players and they didn't make it far last year. I'm sorry, there is just a big difference between, Luka Doncic, who is one of the best ball handlers in the sport and can create his own shot off the dribble everywhere on the court, compared to Anthony Davis, who is a little bit more inconsistent at creating his shot sometimes as a big, but needs the ball as a play finisher and not a play initiator. And that's just two materially different things for me. And who wants to see that in the fucking playoffs? LeBron James and Luka Doncic, who's a fucking killer. You're going to see two all-time playoff killers at once. And don't even get me started with can these two play off the ball? I don't want to get too much into the Luka-LeBron dynamic, but the whole Luka-LeBron, can they play together? Yes, they can. Next. And then they get Mark Williams. I cannot believe the Lakers had assets to spend after trading for Luka fucking Doncic. What the fuck was Nico Harrison thinking, dude? That's just insane to me. But great trade for the Lakers. I love this trade for the Lakers. I have talked a few times on this channel about Mark Williams, and now he is going to be in the perfect spot for his offensive development. Last 20 games has been averaging 17, 10, nearly 3 assists, and over 1 block a game. He's just been awesome. Defensively, that's going to be the only question. And then Brandon Ingram finally has been mercifully traded from the New Orleans Pelicans and will be going to the Toronto Raptors. And I'm trying to figure out where my head is with this trade. Because on one hand, Brandon Ingram does bring some needed on-ball talent to take some of the pressure off of Scottie Barnes. But Brandon Ingram's going to be an unrestricted free agent this summer. And I don't know if he wants to stay in Toronto. Maybe, we'll see, who knows. But also, I'm going to be completely honest, as much as I liked the Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett trades last year, there is still a little bit of a cramping of the spacing in Toronto. And I think the most ideal way to build a team around Scottie Barnes, who I think is going to be an absolute star, is to have as much spacing and ball handling as possible. And while Brandon Ingram does help out in some of those ways, he's not necessarily like a great shooter, right? He's a scorer, and those are two different things. And I feel like on the Raptors, well, Chris Boucher can shoot, Grady Dick can shoot, Emmanuel Quickley can shoot, but Emmanuel Quickley has been, dealing with injuries this year. But you trade away Kelly Olynyk, there goes some of your spacing there. Jakob Poeltl's still your starting center. I mean, the spacing's just going to be cramped in there, and I don't know if that is also good for Scottie. I don't know. I have to see how this trade plays out a little bit, but I'm a little scared that Ingram is just going to walk in free agency because I'm not so sure he wants to be, in Toronto. But this is just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, this is also just a byproduct of trading Pascal Siakam too late. But you give up Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, 1 first-round pick and 1 second-rounder just to see, if you could take a flyer on Ingram. I also thought there was a good point. Nekias Duncan of the Dunker Spot brought this up on Twitter, but having Brandon Ingram will allow Scottie Barnes to stay engaged defensively and, take the load off offensively a little bit for Scottie. So I could see it working out a little bit there. But I honestly don't like the direction the Raptors roster construction is headed. I guess I'm just in a wait and see with that one in particular. I'm sure people have their feelings one way or another because Brandon Ingram's that type of player where people just are one way or the other on him, I feel. But I would like to wait and see with this one.